Okay, let's unpack this. The world of AI is just, well, it's absolutely exploding right now.
It really is everywhere you look.
And with that explosion comes this massive, growing demand for ways to process data, run models. But here's the catch. People need that to happen securely, privately, without having to just hand everything over to the big, centralized tech giants. How do you even begin to build that kind of trustworthy infrastructure in a decentralized world?
Yeah, that's really the fundamental challenge, isn't it? Taking those sensitive AI workloads, moving them out of the usual data centers, putting them into a more open distributed setup, that takes serious tech innovation.
For sure.
But even more than that, maybe, it requires trust. You absolutely need to be able to verify what's actually happening with your data, with your models.
Exactly. And that brings us right to our topic for this deep dive today, Bittensor.
Okay.
It's a network specifically designed to try and, incentivize and coordinate all these decentralized AI efforts.
Right. Trying to bring some order to the chaos, maybe.
Kind of. And within that network, we're really narrowing our focus down quite a bit. We're looking at one specific corner, Subnet 4, which is known as Targon.
Targon. Got it. And that's being developed by a company, Manifold Labs, based in Austin, Texas.
That's the one. And the sources flag them as, a dedicated and pretty active contributor within the whole Bittensor ecosystem.
Okay, so they're not new to the space.
Seems not. So what's Targon's core mission then? The sources point to it building this decentralized marketplace specifically for AI services.
Like what kind of services?
Think inference, model leasing, renting out GPU compute power, standard stuff maybe. But the big differentiator they're pushing, the real core pillar here, is a heavy, heavy emphasis on confidential compute.
Ah, okay. CC. That makes sense. Confidential compute is absolutely vital if you're serious about security in this context.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, it's that layer designed to handle sensitive data securely, even while it's actively being processed. The idea is basically protecting the data and the model's integrity by keeping them encrypted right there in memory.
So even the system underneath can't really see it.
Exactly. Away from the operating system, the hypervisor. The goal is you can actually trust the computation environment itself. It's hardware-based trust, ideally.
Okay, got it. So our mission for this deep dive, then, is to take this whole stack of sources you've given us. And it's quite a mix, right? A comprehensive research analysis, some technical docs, even community forum comments.
Yeah, a real variety.
And really cut through the noise. We want to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights, to help you understand what Targon is actually aiming for, its potential, but just as importantly, the significant risks and challenges it faces, especially if you're looking at it from, say, an investment angle.
So basically, this is your shortcut to getting up to speed on this very specific, kind of technical, and sometimes, let's be honest, pretty complex part of the decentralized AI world.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The sources kind of hint at this core tension right from the get-go. Yeah, Targon presents this genuinely innovative idea, right?
Yeah.
Addressing a real and growing need for secure, decentralized AI. But the analysis almost immediately throws up some pretty significant red flags, things you absolutely need to be aware of if you're evaluating this project. Let's jump in.
All right, let's do it. Red flags noted.
So picking up on that tension, the investment thesis for Targon, as it's laid out in the sources, it's basically built on this idea of escalating demand. People need accessible, trustworthy AI infrastructure.
Both inside Bittensor and maybe drawing users from outside, too.
That seems to be the hope, yeah. Both within and beyond.
Okay. And the analysis does highlight some key strengths supporting that idea, right?
It does. What stood out to you?
Well, first, they're targeting high-demand AI services, things people actually need. Inference, model leasing, GPU compute. That's smart.
Practical.
Yeah. And a major point, the innovation piece, is that focus on confidential compute. They mention using specific hardware tech like NVIDIA CC, Intel TDX.
Right, the hardware-based security we talked about.
Exactly. It's meant to provide that crucial layer of security and trust by actually securing the AI stack itself right down to the silicon.
Okay. And Manifold Labs, the developers, they're also building out user-facing platforms. That feels important.
Definitely. Things like Targon.com, which they describe as an AI playground and the leasing service.
Yeah.
And also tao.xyz.
What's that one?
That's positioned more as a powerful analytics tool for Bittensor power users. Think wallet tracking, subnet analysis, market insights. Kind of like a Bloomberg terminal for Bittensor, maybe?
Interesting analogy. So tools for different types of users.
Seems so. Plus, they're developing or planning applications, too, like DIPI for AI chat, Sybil for enhanced search, TAOBOT for decentralized AI access.
And the idea there is that these apps actually use the Targon infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. Drive adoption, create demand for the underlying services. It's a way to bootstrap the network.
Okay. And we mentioned Manifold Labs, dedicated team, integrated into Bittensor using TAO and its own alpha token, Delta.
Right, the standard Bittensor setup with a native token for the subnet.
Okay, so those are the stated strengths, the vision. Sounds promising on the surface.
But here come the punches. The sources don't shy away from the risks, and they jump on them pretty quickly.
Like what? What are the big ones?
First off, a notable scarcity of comprehensive public information.
Meaning?
Well, while some leadership is named, the analysis notes a lack of detail on the full team, the financials, and critically, it explicitly states there's no mention anywhere in the provided info of independent third-party security audits.
Wow. Okay, no third-party audits mentioned for a security-focused project.
Exactly. That absence of external validation is flagged as a huge point of concern. A major red flag right there.
You'd think that would be priority number one.
You would, and this is compounded by community allegations that are apparently circulating, mentioned particularly on places like Reddit.
Allegations about what?
Claims about operational issues, even historical exploits, and potentially some kind of alpha token manipulation.
Okay, that sounds serious. Are they verified?
The sources are clear. These are unverified allegations. But if they're out there and left unaddressed, they significantly damage trust. And trust is everything for a platform promising security.
Yeah. Perception becomes reality sometimes. What else?
Well, the competitive landscape is just brutal.
Right.
You've got the centralized cloud giants, AWS, Azure, Google, all offering their own CC services now, plus other decentralized AI projects and other subnets within Bittensor itself competing for resources and users.
So competition from all sides. And its success is tied to Bittensor generally.
Inherently, linked to the overall health of the network, the TAO, token price, all that ecosystem risk.
Makes sense.
And just delivering reliable, scalable, and genuinely secure confidential compute, that's a massive technical challenge on its own. Doing it in a decentralized network just adds layers of complexity.
Okay, so when you put all that together, the vision, the strengths, but then these immediate, pretty significant risks, what's the overall take from the analysis?
The outlook and recommendation summary is cautiously neutral, but definitely leaning towards unfavorable for direct significant investment right now at this specific point in time.
So hold off.
Essentially, yeah. The risks, especially around transparency, the missing audits, those circulating allegations, they're seen as just too substantial currently. It creates a very high-risk profile.
Got it. High risk, maybe high reward. But the risk side is flashing great red right now.
That's a good way to put it. The analysis does lay out, best, base, and worst case scenarios. Kind of frames the potential outcomes depending on whether Manifold Labs manages to tackle these risks and actually get people using the platform.
And strategically, you mentioned they're building the infrastructure and the apps on top, like Targon.com and tao.xyz.
Yeah, that vertical integration approach. Combining the core infra, the CC, the GPU market with user-facing apps and tools.
What's the thinking there?
Well, the idea is that the apps drive usage of the infra, right? And the feedback from that usage helps refine both. It could create this nice self-reinforcing cycle, a competitive advantage. But the sources also point out it massively increases the development complexity and the resources needed. Manifold Labs is taking on a lot.
Spreading themselves thin, maybe?
Potentially. And that confidential compute focus, while definitely highlighted as a significant differentiator, addressing data privacy, security, especially for sensitive industries like healthcare or finance.
Right, the core value prop.
It also comes with that dependency on specialized hardware, Intel TDX, NVIDIA CC. The sources note this limits the pool of potential miners and basically ties Targon's capabilities directly to what those third-party tech providers offer.
So bottlenecks and dependencies built in.
Kinda, yeah. It's a trade-off for that specific type of security.
Okay, so let's dig a bit deeper then into what Subnet 4 is actually trying to do, like on a functional level.
Right. Its core objective is high-performance AI inference, model leasing, and GPU compute. The keywords they emphasize are performance, accessibility, decentralization, and underpinning it all, security through CC.
A marketplace for AI stuff.
Pretty much. Envisioned as a marketplace for AI-related digital commodities within Bittensor, designed so models can interact, provide services, without needing some central controller orchestrating everything.
And didn't Block Apex have a description?
Yeah, the sources mentioned Block Apex characterized it as a deterministic verification framework, basically incentivizing miners to run OpenAI-compliant endpoints.
Why OpenAI compliant?
For reliability, transparency, and importantly, using a standard API that tons of developers already know and use lowers the barrier to entry.
Ah, practical adoption strategy.
Exactly, and that highlights the core problem Targon's trying to solve. This growing need for AI compute and model access that's scalable, cost-effective, but crucially trustworthy.
Especially in decentralized settings.
Especially there. Verifying model integrity, data privacy, making sure the execution happened correctly, that's paramount. Targon aims to significantly cut inference costs while keeping performance high using its architecture and that CC focus.
So who is this actually for? Who gets value here?
Okay, breakdown. For users and developers. The pitch is access to fast, maybe cheaper, and verifiably secure AI model inference and leasing. Targon.com is their main door in playground leasing future GPU rentals.
Makes sense. Miners.
For miners, it's the chance to earn TAO and Delta tokens, but specifically by contributing high-performance, secure compute power, especially if they have that specialized CC hardware. It's a niche they can fill.
So incentivizing specific hardware and a whole Bittensor ecosystem.
For the broader ecosystem, Targon aims to boost the network's overall AI capabilities. By providing this foundational layer for secure, verifiable AI compute, it could improve human-AI interactions and, maybe more importantly, offer secure infrastructure that other subnets can build on top of.
Like a utility service for other parts of Bittensor?
Potentially, yeah. A secure backend they don't have to build themselves.
Okay, so what are they actually building? What are the concrete offerings?
They structure it in layers. There's an AI inference layer optimized for speed, handling language, images, etc.
Then the leasing part.
Yep, a model leasing layer. Basically a catalog of models people can rent. The sources gave specific examples from Targon.com. Like Juggernaut XLV9 priced at $1 per million tokens.
Oh, they list actual prices.
Yeah, and FLUX.1 dev at 80 cents per million tokens. That transparent pricing is part of the whole marketplace idea.
Okay, what else?
There's the planned GPU compute layer for flexible rentals. That seems to be coming soon. And then, holding it all together, that confidential compute layer, using NVIDIA CC Intel TDX to secure the processing itself.
Which core security piece. And the platforms.
The user-facing platforms are key. Targon.com is the main hub for users and developers, and tao.xyz for those Bittensor analytics, wallet tracking, market flow monitoring for the real power users.
Got it. And the apps. Dippy, Sybil.
Yeah, applications they're building or supporting. Dippy for character chat, TOBOPT, Sybil for AI search. Dippy is explicitly noted as already routing like 5% of its traffic through Targon SN4.
Oh, so there is some early usage then.
Seems so, yeah.
Oh.
Small scale, but a start, with plans to scale up.
And that OpenAI compliant endpoints thing again.
Mm-hmm.
It really is about making it easy for developers.
Absolutely. It's a pragmatic choice. It lowers the barrier significantly. If devs can use code and expertise they already have from working with OpenAI's API, it's about competing with the big guys on ease of use, not just security.
Makes strategic sense. And thinking about it as a marketplace for digital commodities, that feels broader than just providing a service.
It is. It positions Targon not just as a utility, but as a potential foundational layer for a new AI economy within Bittensor. Miners provide compute commodity, models are released commodity, AI results get delivered commodity.
And that could drive network effects.
That's the hope. If it works, it creates this cycle where more activity attracts more participants, making the whole market more valuable.
Okay, let's really dig into the technology now, how it works, and critically, the security aspects, because the sources really hammer on some points here.
Right. The basic architecture. It's built on Subnet 4. Decentralized miners process requests via APIs optimized for this stuff.
And the confidential compute integration.
That's positioned as the absolute cornerstone of their security strategy. This stated goal. Secure the entire AI stack. Hardware, software, apps, everything. Enabling verifiable, trustworthy operations.
What specific CC features do they mention?
Things like hardware-enforced memory encryption, secure boot using a hardware root of trust, GPU TEs, trusted execution environments for isolating code.
Okay, standard CC content.
Yeah, plus remote attestation to verify the environment's integrity, secure key management, memory isolation. Pretty comprehensive list of CC capability.
And hardware support. Still just NVIDIA and Intel for now.
Currently, yes. NVIDIA CC and an Intel TDX, but it's good they mention plans to add support for AMD, SEVU, S&P, and others. That diversification is important.
Definitely. And the intended benefits are clear, right? Secure inference, protecting the models.
End-to-end secure inference, hardware attestation so you can prove the environment is secure, protected model execution so models don't get easily stolen or messed with during use, and verifiable computation via that remote attestation piece. That's the promise.
Okay, operationally,
Yeah.
how do the different players fit in? Miners.
Miners are the backbone. They provide the compute, and the sources get specific about requirements. Intel TDX-enabled machines, GPUs, need to be in something called PPCIe mode, and they need over 1.5 terabytes of storage.
Pretty hefty requirements.
Yeah, specialized kit. Miners run Targon software, including the Targon Virtual Machine, or TVM, which is designed to process requests securely inside that CC environment.
And they get paid in TAO and Delta. Are they optimizing?
Interestingly, yes. The sources report miners are actively optimizing performance. Things like setting up servers physically close to validators to cut latency, implementing load balancing, shows a competitive drive to maximize their rewards.
So a sophisticated miner base, potentially. What about validators?
Also crucial, they evaluate the miners, check quality, and importantly, they handle the GPU attestation. That's the process that verifies the secure state of the miner's CC environments. Manifold provides setup tools for them, Docker, Go-based service.
And incentives follow Bittensor standard.
Yeah, UMA consensus. Rewards based on contributions, speed, accuracy, uptime, and crucially, that verifiable security within the CC environment likely gets weighted heavily.
Makes sense. And deterministic verification.
That's just to ensure the miner's endpoints stick to the OpenAI API standard and service quality stays consistent. Quality control, basically.
Okay, now, security deep dive. The analysis flags this as super important, especially for investors. Let's start with the platform's own security.
Right. Beyond just the CC features, the sources initially noted limited public visibility on GitHub, though that seems to have improved. The main repo is public and active now.
Okay, so some progress on transparency there.
But the major concern, stated very clearly in the analysis, the provided information does not mention any independent third-party security audits. Not for the smart contracts, not for the core platform code, not for the CC implementation itself, nothing mentioned.
Wow. Still circling back to that absence of external validation.
It's called out as a critical vulnerability, a massive red flag for a project whose entire selling point is security and trust.
Seems almost contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Building a trust platform without that proof of trust.
It does raise serious questions. Now, the confidential compute security itself, the sources note it definitely enhances data protection, but it's not magic.
Right. It depends on the underlying hardware being solid.
Exactly. Hardware robustness, Manifold-specific implementation details, how they manage keys, the integrity of the attestation process. Targon's docs outline how they plan to leverage these, but CC Tech itself isn't infallible. It has its own potential attack surfaces.
Okay. And then the elephant in the room, the allegations.
Yeah. The analysis flags this repeatedly. Serious community concerns raised on places like Reddit, alleging Targon has been exploited for ages.
Exploited for ages, that's strong language.
Very. Now, again, the sources stress these are unverified claims, but they cast a huge shadow. And crucially, the sources state there's any acknowledgement indication, as of when they were compiled, of any official acknowledgement, investigation, or public refutation from Manifold Labs about these specific allegations.
Just silence on claims of being exploited.
That's what the sources report, and that silence is highlighted as a major issue regarding trust and transparency.
You'd expect a security project to address exploit claims head-on.
You absolutely would. Quickly moving on, data handling. Targon processes potentially sensitive stuff, prompts, input data, the models themselves. Their Targon.com privacy policy mentions Manifold Labs, Inc., Texas Corp., details data collected, account, payment, comms, usage, purposes, service, analytics, legal, and storage in Austin, TX. Standard policy stuff seems like.
And just to recap the tech dependencies quickly, miners need that specific Intel TDX gear, PPCIe GPUs, storage, Docker, the TVM. Validators need Go, Python, Docker, NVIDIA attest service. Users hit web platforms or APIs.
Right. And that specific miner hardware requirement, it does create a higher barrier to entry than for some other subnets.
Which could mean?
Well, the analysis suggests it might lead to a smaller, more concentrated miner pool, but potentially those miners could be more dedicated, more skilled because they've made that specific investment. Its viability really hinges on the TAO and Delta incentives being juicy enough to justify buying and running that specialized, expensive hardware.
So it's a balancing act, getting enough capable miners without being too centralized.
Exactly. And circling back one more time to that critical vulnerability cluster, the lack of public third-party audits and those unaddressed community allegations.
Can't stress those enough, seems like.
The sources certainly don't. They repeatedly emphasize it creates a significant trust deficit, which is just incredibly damaging for any project, but particularly one selling itself as trustworthy and secure. It fundamentally weakens their core claims and jacks up the investment risk, especially for any serious enterprise use.
Okay, so they're building this complex, security-focused tech. Who are they actually competing against out there in the wild?
Yeah, the industry and competitive landscape. Targon is playing in multiple fast-growing markets all at once.
Which ones?
Decentralized AI infrastructure, AI model inference and leasing, the whole decentralized GPU compute space, and the broader confidential computing market itself.
And that confidential computing market alone is pretty big already, right? With established players?
Oh, yeah. Significant market size, major tech companies already offering CC solutions.
One of the big trends Targon's trying to ride.
Well, the obvious one. The absolute surge in demand for AI compute. Bigger models, wider adoption driving that. Then growing concerns about data privacy and security that directly fuels interest in CC. And third, this increasing appeal of decentralized alternatives to the big cloud providers. People looking for more control, censorship resistance, maybe lower costs.
So Targon is positioned at the intersection of those trends.
That's the idea. Now, if we look through a Porter's 5 forces lens, threat of new entrants. Medium.
Why medium? Bittensor's permissionless, right?
It is, but you need that specialized CC hardware investment, the technical expertise, and building trust for a security platform is hard. Those are barriers.
Bargaining power of suppliers.
Medium to high. Think the CC hardware guys, Intel, NVIDIA, also the specialized miners who own that gear, and the skilled developers needed to build this stuff. They have leverage.
Bargaining power of buyers. Customers.
Medium. Buyers do have choices. The big clouds, other decentralized options are popping up. But if Targon can really nail that niche of secure, cost-effective CC for specific needs, it could reduce buyer power for those use cases.
Threat of substitutes. Other ways to get this done.
HIGH, very high. Centralized cloud giants, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud are huge substitutes. They have full platforms, their own CC offerings, enterprise trust.
And within crypto.
Within Bittensor, other subnets offer compute, like Shoot's SN4 for general stuff, or specialized AI like Omron SN2 doing ZK-verified inference. Outside Bittensor, you've got Inferium for inference, plus Akash, Fast.ai, Flux, Render. Those guys compete hard on decentralized GPU marketplace access.
Lots of alternatives. Intensity of rivalry.
Also HIGH. Fiercely competitive AI cloud market overall. Established giants versus newcomers like Targon. Yeah. And within Bittensor itself, subnets fight for TAO, for stake, for users. The analysis is clear. Targon has to differentiate itself effectively.
So what's the strategic takeaway from that competitive pressure?
The analysis argues their strategic imperative is to carve out and really dominate a niche around decentralized confidential AI. Competing broadly on general services or just price against the scale of AWS or even other GPU networks, that's probably a losing battle.
So focus, laser focus.
Exactly. Marketing, development, everything needs to target users and use cases where that specific combo security, verifiability, decentralization, CAC is the absolute priority.
And the other Bittensor subnets, they're competition, but also potential customers.
That's the interesting duality, yeah. Many other subnets will need compute and inference. Targon could become their go-to provider for secure infrastructure, instead of building it themselves or using less secure options.
Creating an internal market within Bittensor.
Right. Fostering these symbiotic relationships, reinforcing Targon's value within the ecosystem, not just competing against it.
Okay, so given all that context, the tech, the risks, the competition, what's Targon's real unique value proposition? And does it have legs? Like sustainable advantage using that VRIO framework?
Yeah, the UVP boils down to decentralized, secure, high-performance AI cloud, specializing in confidential inference, model leasing, and GPU compute. Aimed at users who prioritize verifiability, privacy, maybe cost, initially within Bittensor, but with bigger ambitions.
Key elements being that CC focus and maybe the model leasing part?
Potentially. The sources noted at one point it might have been the only provider on Bittensor offering model leasing, and that foundational CC focus is definitely key.
Okay, let's apply VRIO to their main resources, confidential compute tech and implementation.
Valuable, yes. Rare. Medium, high, rare, specifically within decentralized AI on Bittensor, costly to imitate. High requires expertise. Organized to capture value. This is where it gets tricky. The analysis says developing.
Developing. Why?
Because it needs adoption, needs proof it works reliably, needs trust. So the implication is potential for sustainable competitive advantage if they can prove it's superior, reliable, user-friendly. Big if.
Okay, what about the decentralized network itself, the CC specialized miners?
Similar story. Valuable, yes. Rare, medium rare, a network actually equipped with this hardware isn't common. Costly to imitate. Medium high, attracting those miners is tough. Organized to capture value, also developing. Depends on incentives, network size, quality, which all depend on adoption. So again, potential for sustainable competitive advantage if they build and keep a robust, skilled network.
The Targon.com platform and their user-facing apps.
Valuable, yes. Rare, low medium maybe. Lots of AI tools exist. Costly to imitate. Medium, building a slick front end tied to a complex back end isn't trivial. Organized to capture value. Here the analysis says yes, they're actively developing and promoting these.
So the implication there.
Likely competitive parity, maybe a temporary edge from the back-end integration. Tao.xyz could become rarer if it really becomes that Bloomberg for Bittensor.
And the Manifold Labs team, their Bittensor expertise.
Valuable, yes. Rare. Medium rare, proven niche expertise isn't common. Costly to imitate. High, building that rep and skill takes time and results. Organized to capture value. Assumed yes. This also holds potential for sustainable competitive advantage if the team keeps delivering, innovating, and crucially, maintaining its reputation.
Lastly, the alpha token, Delta.
Valuable, yes. Rare. The analysis says no. All subnets have alpha tokens. Costly to imitate, not applicable really. Organized to capture value, yes. So fundamentally, that's competitive parity. The token's advantage comes purely from its utility-driving demand, which circles back to whether the core services succeed.
So putting it together, the strongest potential advantage comes from
The synergy. That combination of the specialized CC implementation and the team's specific Bittensor expertise. That combo is harder to copy than any single piece. But this only holds true if Targon actually becomes the trusted go-to provider for confidential AI on Bittensor.
Right, and that organized to capture value part seems like the weak link currently.
It's flagged as a relative weakness for some key potential advantages, yes. Explicitly tied back to those unanswered questions. Market traction, the transparency gaps, those unaddressed allegations.
So Manifold Labs needs to execute.
Absolutely. On business development, crucially on building trust through transparency, and on just making the tech work reliably. Without strong adoption, especially paid adoption, and without establishing that trust, even the best tech isn't really organized to capture its full value.
Okay, let's shift to the business model. How do they actually plan to make this work financially, create and capture value?
It's described as a hybrid model. They leverage the built-in Bittensor incentives, the TAO emissions, but they're also building direct revenue streams from their platforms like Targon.com.
Who are the key players involved? Partners, customers?
Key partners. Manifold Labs itself as the developer, obviously. The miners providing the CC compute. Validators handling attestation. The Bittensor network as the base layer. Indirectly, hardware providers like Intel, NVIDIA. Then users, customers, developers, enterprises, other subnets needing secure compute. Users of their apps like Dippy. And users of tao.xyz. Dippy AI is confirmed as an actual app user.
And what are Manifold's key activities? What do they actually do day to day?
Ongoing protocol development and maintenance, especially the CC integration. Developing and operating the platforms Targon.com, tao.xyz. Application development. Coordinating the network, particularly attracting and managing those specialized CC miners. R&D and AI and CC, and marketing, community building.
Key resources they rely on.
The SN4 protocol itself, the CC tech, any proprietary implementations Manifold has built, the platforms and apps Targon.com, tao.xyz, Dippy, Sybil, the network of CC miners and validators they manage to attract, the Manifold team's expertise, the Delta token, the TAO emissions flowing in, and their brand, which, as the sources noted, has a somewhat mixed reputation currently.
Value propositions again, quickly.
For end users, devs, secure, fast, cost-effective AI, plus useful tools like the Targon.com playground, tao.xyz analytics. For miners, validators, earn TAO Delta for specialized valuable CC work. For the Bittensor ecosystem, provide that foundational secure AI infra layer.
Customer segments they're targeting.
Developers, researchers needing secure sandboxes. Enterprises with sensitive data needing confidential AI. Other Bittensor subnets looking for secure backends, users of their apps like Dippy, Sybil, and those Bittensor power users digging into tao.xyz data.
How do they reach them?
Channels. Websites are key, Targon.com, tao.xyz, Manifold.inc, GitHub for the tech crowd. Social media, they mention at Manifold Labs on Twitter, a Discord server. Direct outreach, maybe partnerships, event sponsorship was noted.
Yeah.
And potentially app stores for things like Dippy.
Cost structure. What are they spending money on?
Big chunk is R&D protocol, platforms, apps, CC work. Network incentives paid out via Theta or Delta emissions are a cost in a sense. Marketing, community building, operational infrastructure, legal, compliance, standard tech company costs, plus the crypto-specific ones.
Okay, revenue streams. How do they make money or capture value?
Primary source, especially early on, is TAO emissions from the network, based on performance stake via that SN4 mechanism.
But crucially, the direct revenue.
Yes, confirmed direct revenue streams from fees on Targon.com services. The analysis highlights AI model leasing, citing those prices again, $1 ptosis for Juggernaut, $0.80 for FLUX.1 dev, and plan revenue from GPU compute rentals, with flexible pricing mentioned.
Any other potential streams?
Potential, but more speculative, according to the sources, for revenue from Tobo.xyz, maybe premium tiers, or monetizing other apps down the line.
And the Delta token value itself.
That's another way value accrues. If demand for Targon services grows, people might need Delta for staking or access, increasing demand for the token, potentially raising its price. Benefits token holders indirectly.
So long-term financial sustainability. What does it depend on?
According to the analysis, it hinges heavily on generating substantial, sustainable direct revenue from Targon.com, fiat or stablecoin revenue most likely. That hybrid model protocol incentives plus commercial sauce bars is a strength diversifying income, but it's also a huge execution challenge. They need to succeed on both fronts.
And their user acquisition strategy, using free tools.
Yeah, the freemium approach with the Targon.com playground, maybe a free tier for tao.xyz. Lower the barrier, let people try it out, then funnel them towards paid services like leasing or compute. Standard playbook, but effectiveness depends on the quality of the free stuff and how smooth that user journey is.
Makes sense. Yeah. And network effects. Critical for a marketplace.
Absolutely. Direct network effects. More users attract more miners, more demand, more rewards, which leads to better service, faster, more reliable, wider model choice, which attracts more users. Vicious or virtuous cycle. More validators also build trust.
Indirect effects.
Things like tao.xyz, attracting general Bittensor ecosystem users who then become aware of Targon. Apps like Dippy showcasing what the infrastructure can do. Building a strong reputation for confidential compute could even enhance the credibility of the entire Bittensor network.
Okay, let's quickly pull together the key points from the SWOT analysis, keeping that investment focus front and center. Strengths.
Innovative CC focus, potential first-mover niche advantage on Bittensor, that comprehensive ecosystem vision, Infra Plus apps, experienced leadership noted at Manifold, and a clear path to direct monetization.
Weaknesses. Big ones.
The critical transparency and audit deficit, major weakness. Unproven efficacy and adoption at scale, especially for paid services. High barrier for CC miners. Significant reputational risk from those unaddressed allegations, major again. And some historical GitHub visibility issues, though that seems better now.
Opportunities.
Growing demand for secure AI overall. The expanding Bittensor ecosystem as a built-in customer base. Potential enterprise adoption if they can build that trust. Leadership potential in decentralized CC. Enabling new kinds of apps that need secure computation.
Threats.
Intense competition, major threat. Rapid tech obsolescence, AI and CC move fast. Security risks in the underlying CC hardware software itself. Broader Bittensor ecosystem risks like TAO volatility and regulatory uncertainty swirling around crypto and AI.
The analysis points out a key tension there, right? Between strength and weakness.
Yeah, that innovative, complex CC focus is a strength, but it creates weaknesses like the high miner barrier and the huge execution risk. It suggests growth might be slower, more niche, but potentially more defensible if they succeed.
And that reputational risk? Can't overstate it.
The analysis basically says it can neutralize their strengths.
Yep.
Trust is just fundamental for security platforms. Failing to manage those negative narratives and allegations transparently, it kills adoption and confidence.
Okay, shifting to the wider context, PESTLE analysis. Quick hits on relevant factors.
Politically. AI regs, crypto regs, data regs, cybersecurity rules. Economically, macroclimate, tao delta price swings, CC hardware costs, AICC market demand, and pricing pressures.
Social.
Growing data privacy awareness, that's a huge opportunity for CC, but also requires building trust in decentralized systems, getting developer adoption, ethical AI concerns too. Rapid AICC innovation threat of being left behind, dependency on Bittensor protocol evolution, dependency on CC hardware-software security, big risk, scalability challenges, interoperability, the OpenAI compliance helps here.
Legal and environmental.
Legally, evolving AI beta crypto laws mean uncertainty. Data protection compliance is a challenge for decentralized CC, though Targon.com has a privacy policy. Environmentally, energy use of GPUs for AICC is a factor. Growing demand for greener tech.
Key dynamics there.
Yeah.
Tech moving faster than law.
Yeah, rapid tech versus developing legal frameworks equals lots of uncertainty. And that social acceptance piece, building trust in CC, absolutely critical for adoption, requires education and, again, transparency.
All right, let's get into the fundamental financial and governance details. Pulling specifics from the sources. Tokenomics delta.
Alpha token for SN4, utility, staking, neuron registration within the subnet, price, tied to an AMM pool ratio against TAO. Emissions, mirror TAO's halving schedule. Total supply, same 21 million cap philosophy as TAO.
Performance.
Volatile. Sources noted it was a top 5 alpha token early on, but saw corrections. Mentioned a price around $52.04, market cap range $47M, $93.07 at one point, with an oversold RSI noted, indicating bearish sentiment then. The key takeaway. Delta's price is a dynamic KPI for SN4's perceived health and activity via DTAO.
TAO distribution. Vesting.
TAO split likely follows typical DTAO, owner, miners, validators, but specifics weren't detailed. Vesting schedules. Critically, the analysis says NO info available in sources regarding vesting from Manifold or any potential backers. Another transparency gap flagged.
Revenue beyond emissions.
Yes, confirmed. Fees from Targon.com, model leasing prices, $1 of Juggernaut meets HEFLUX, cited again. Planned GPU compute revenue. Financial sustainability long-term. Depends on scaling that direct revenue.
Use case and problem solution fit. Does it work? Is it effective?
Aims for fast, cheap, secure via CC. Performance claims cited. Targon.com, 4x faster, Llama 3, 70B sometimes. V2 hitting over 2286 token sec on Llama 8B. Dippy using it for 5% traffic planning to scale. OAK research noted some outperformance versus Web 2, so some positive indicators.
Big challenges.
Those community allegations of non-functionality or past exploits majorly impact perception, maybe reality, of effectiveness. The specialized hardware limits scale decentralization potential. Sustainability depends on adapting the tech, growing paid adoption, and crucially, building trust by addressing those allegations and security concerns head-on.
Team, advisors, backers, Manifold Labs again.
Austin-based Decentralized Frontier AI Lab. Key names. Robert Myers, CEO, ex-Bittensor employee, early miner. Josh Brown, CTO. Others mention job postings suggests expansion. Team transparency improved on leadership, but sources still lack full details on team structure, size, depth of experience, and the note to avoid confusing them with other manifolds.
Methras, backers.
None mentioned as specific advisors in the sources, backers. Likely self-funded or funded through early TAO involvement. No mention of specific external VC, angel, or strategic backers from Manifold Targon in the provided sources. Only general Bittensor network investors are mentioned broadly.
Governance and decentralization. Who's in charge?
Manifold Labs likely centralized owner-developer initially. They probably set direction for SN4. Roles: team dev, Delta holders, staking influence, TAO holders, stake to SN4, community, miners, validators, users. Operationally decentralized via the network, yes. Strategically, developmentally, centralized by Manifold early on. Path to true SN4 governance decentralization. Not clear. And general concerns about Bittensor decentralization overall exist. DTAO does help market decentralization via the token value.
Activity, adoption, metrics, KPIs. Are people using it?
Specific numbers for active miners validators, not in sources. Stake is key, linked to Delta price cap. Throughput claims, where cited those numbers. 2286 token sec. User adoption. Dippy AI. 5% traffic, plan scale. Targon.com/tao.xyz live. But specific user numbers or revenue from those platforms not provided.
GitHub activity, roadmap.
Main repo public, active dev noted, stars forks updates. Roadmap in GitHub is ambitious. Secure training, data storage, dev platform tools, scaling, multi-vendor CC support, AMD, Subby, SNP planned. Manifold 2.0 initiatives, Targon V2, Targon Hub, Sybil, tao.xyz, show active work.
Feasibility.
Catalyst. Feasibility hinges on execution, funding, talent, adoption, miners, and users. Upcoming catalysts: Targon.com GPU launch traction, significant public adoption metrics, strategic partnerships, critically, publication of positive third-party security audits, a clear public response to allegations. Specific timelines not provided.
And Manifold's overall ecosystem strategy: infra plus platforms plus apps.
Ambitious. Aims to be pivotal in Bittensor, creates synergies, but resource-intensive, spreads focus, raises execution risk, interdependencies, high-risk, high-reward strategy.
Okay, market sentiment, community analysis. What's the vibe?
Mixed. Definitely mixed, based on the sources.
Good.
Positive sentiment calls Targon one of the strongest subnets, points to performance claims, Targon V2 speed cost, views Manifold Labs as a capable builder team.
The bad.
Negative sentiment is heavily driven by those allegations, exploits, operational issues, token manipulation claims. The lack of audits is a huge driver of concern, too. Token volatility doesn't help either.
Key narrative shaping perception.
Positive narrative. Cutting-edge, secure, decentralized AI powerhouse in the making. Negative narrative. Questions about operational reliability. Are the exploit claims true? Token funny business. Why no audits? Big trust gap narrative.
Where's the discussion happening?
GitHub for tech stuff, Twitter for official news, Discord for support, discussion, and Reddit, where some of those serious allegations seem to have surfaced.
Community technical level.
Seems decent. Indicated by those reports of miners optimizing setups, geolocation load balancing. CC hardware itself requires technical skill, shows an engaged, capable, but also highly competitive network.
And the impact of those unverified allegations.
Significant and damaging, creates persistent FUD, hurts trust, scares off users, investors who can't easily verify things themselves. The analysis really stresses this highlights a critical need for Manifold Labs to be proactive, transparent, in community management. Ignoring serious claims lets negative stories fester and kills the credibility needed for a security platform.
That minor sophistication. Good sign, but also means high competition.
Exactly. Positive sign of an engaged base, but underscores just how competitive these Bittensor subnets are. Requires constant innovation from Manifold and the miners just to stay ahead.
Okay, let's try to consolidate all this into a comprehensive risk assessment. Pulling from that matrix in the sources, focusing on the high likelihood, high impact ones.
Right. Technical risks. Platform security vulnerabilities flagged as high likelihood, high impact, directly linked to the lack of audits and those allegations. Ineffective, insecure CC implementation. Medium likelihood, but still high GH impact if it fails. Scalability, medium.
Economic financial risk.
Failure of Targon.com, revenue, over-reliance on TAO emissions. Medium, high likelihood, high GH impact for long-term health. TA delta token price volatility, high likelihood, high GH impact on incentives value perception. Minor profitability versus hardware costs. Medium likelihood, high GH impact if incentives don't cover the specialized gear costs.
Governance risks.
Lack of transparency, team details, financials, response to allegations. Rated high likelihood, high impact, directly hits trust. Centralization early stage, high likelihood, medium impact.
Adoption risks.
Trust deficit hindering adoption due to allegations and no audits. High likelihood, high impact. Intense competition, high likelihood, high each impact. Broader market risks. Crypto AI sentiment. Medium. Regulatory. Medium.
The analysis specifically calls out the risk from the allegations again.
Yeah, specific risk from unaddressed allegations labeled severe, acute risk. Undermines integrity. Failure to refute transparently is seen as a major governance communication failure.
And this all ties into the most critical cluster of risks.
Trust and transparency. That's identified as the core interconnected cluster. No audits plus unaddressed allegations, major trust deficit. This directly kills the trust needed for a security platform, hinders adoption, limits revenue potential, undermines all confidence. Addressing this cluster is Manifold Labs' paramount strategic priority, according to the analysis.
Plus that systemic risk from relying on specialized CC hardware.
Yep. Dependency on supply chains, cost, manufacturer support, vulnerabilities in Intel NVIDIA tech itself. Diversifying to AMD is good, but dependency remains.
Okay. We've unpacked the vision, the tech, the market, the business model, and hammered on those significant risks. Let's bring it all home. The overall investment conclusion and recommendation from the sources.
Recap. Targon innovative vision, decentralized, secure AI cloud via CC. Hybrid model, emissions plus direct revenue. Highly competitive market.
Upsides. The potential.
Addresses real market need, innovative CC tech, network effect potential. Diversified value capture plan. Comprehensive ecosystem vision. Looks good on paper in many ways, but the downsides, and they are significant.
Hit me with the big ones again.
Critical lack of transparency in audits. Unproven efficacy adoption at scale, especially paid services. Intense competition, high execution risk for such an ambitious plan, dependence on Bittensor ecosystem health, and those very serious unresolved community allegations.
The analysis explicitly calls out major red flags, right?
Yeah.
3 main ones hammered home. 1, absence of independent third-party security audits, fundamental flaw for a security project. 2, unaddressed serious allegations, exploits, operations, tokens, massive trust issue. 3, high barrier of specialized CC miners, potential decentralization scale problems.
So qualitative risk-reward assessment based only on this info.
Currently very high risk. Potential for high reward exists, but the risk side is overwhelming right now, explicitly called highly speculative.
We know the best versus worst case scenarios exist, but the current assessment leans hard towards the risks.
Heavily, which leads directly to the recommendations stated clearly in the sources.
Which is?
Unfavorable for direct significant capital allocation at this time, full stop.
And the justification is basically too many unknowns, too many red flags.
Pretty much. Information gaps plus major red flags equals too significant right now. Trust is paramount for this kind of infrastructure, and the sources conclude Targon hasn't established it. Lack of audits, failure to address allegations, competition, execution risks. It's just seen as premature for significant investment until critical milestones are demonstrably met. Risks currently outweigh potential rewards.
So what would change that assessment? What are the key conditions or milestones Manifold needs to hit?
The sources list several critical ones for reassessment. First and foremost, publication of comprehensive security audits, reputable third parties, covering everything platform, contracts, CC implementation, non-negotiable, basically.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, a formal, detailed, evidence-backed public statement directly addressing those specific allegations about exploits, operational issues, manipulation, needs to be specific and credible, moving beyond silence.
Okay. Audits address allegations.
Yeah.
Third,
demonstrable market traction and revenue generation from Targon.com paid services. Show us the numbers. Real users, real volume, actual financial performance metrics. Proof the business model works beyond emissions.
and generally more transparency.
Yeah, enhanced transparency across the board. Full team details, clearer financials, a more granular roadmap with timelines, plus, ideally, independent validation of their performance, cost, and security claims.
So the bottom line from the analysis,
Yeah.
until these major issues, especially around trust and transparency, are resolved, Targon remains high risk, unfavorable outlook based on this info.
That's the clear conclusion presented in the sources, yes.
So you dove deep into Targon with us today, really pulling the insights directly from the sources you shared. And what you see is, well, it's a project with a genuinely innovative vision, right? Sitting at that cutting edge of decentralized AI, secure computation.
Definitely. The potential to solve a huge pressing problem, that need for trustworthy AI infrastructure that isn't controlled by just a few big players, that's incredibly exciting. And focusing on confidential compute is a direct shot at that core problem.
And it's a big but, as the sources in our chat have really highlighted. That excitement is currently overshadowed by some very real, very serious questions, mostly boiling down to transparency and trust.
Yeah. For a platform literally built on the promise of security and confidentiality, the analysis just makes it crystal clear. Proving its own integrity isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. Through that independent validation, the audits, and through open, proactive communication addressing those allegations head on, the lack of those things right now, they're major hurdles to building the confidence this kind of project needs.
So, as you, the listener, navigate this complex, fast-moving world of decentralized tech and AI, how do you personally weigh that? The promise of innovative cutting-edge tech versus that fundamental need for trust, especially when the independent proof, the verification, isn't easily available. What stands out to you as the single most important factor for a project like Targon to build confidence with its users, its developers, and the wider community? Something to think about.